What's going on, Knicks fans? Welcome to another edition of the KFS pregame show. My name is Andrew. His name is XJ. His name is Sean. And we are here to preview the Knicks' upcoming matchup against the Memphis Grizzlies. The Knicks come into this game on a Sunday evening, afternoon at 9 and 10, sitting at 9th place in the Eastern Conference. We will preview it all, discuss the most recent game. We actually have some breaking news to report. Jalen Brunson, who was questionable coming into this game, or a game time decision, I should say, is being reported by the Knicks beat as well as Knicks PR that he is available for tonight's game. So Jalen Brunson will play, which could change the conversation as far as what the Knicks might do tonight. They come in a little bit banged up with a lot of question marks on the defensive end and the normal talking points. But I'm going to try with an uplifting start to this show because, well, listen, I'll just be perfectly honest. I'm very giddy. I have a quarterback, and that is affecting my mood. And I am empathetic to those who may have blown a game to Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars today. So let's not talk about football until the very end of the show. Sean, don't worry about it. Won't bring up that the Ravens have the same record as the Jets. But let's talk about the New York Knicks, who I want to start with the center position, if it's okay. So we'll go to XJ first. They have these three centers. Mitchell Robinson, who they just gave, I guess not an extension, they re-signed to a 4-year, $60 million contract. They have Isaiah Hartenstein, who a lot of people liked as a backup option this season. And a take I had on the most recent post-game show, as I filled in for John on Friday, I should also mention breaking news from KFS. John Macri is available for today and will be on the post-game show. He has recovered from the bug that he had over the past couple days.
Apparently, all he needed to recover from his bug is for RJ to drop another deuce on the court. And then all of a sudden it was like,
bro, I put two and two together. That game on Friday was the spinach to his Popeye. And all of a sudden I wake up Saturday morning to an emergency newsletter. It's like, all right, I guess you're okay. Glad to hear it. My take on Friday night was that this offense looks the best. And I got to be honest, both sides of the court has looked the best recently with Jericho Sims at center. And one of the people I go to be like, if he thinks it, I must be onto something, is Benji. And his takeaway from his rewatch this morning of the Knicks game was that Jericho Sims is their best center. So I want to start there, XJ. Based off the most recent game, what we've seen the last couple of weeks, do you agree with that type of take, with that notion? And then, like, what do you do in that sense when you've got two centers worth $76 million ahead of him technically in the depth chart?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that assessment, especially given the last few games. I said this before, and I really think one of the biggest mistakes that the Knicks made was not trading Mitchell Robinson last year before the All-Star break, because once they before the trading deadline, because once they didn't trade him, they had to re-sign him. There was no option. You couldn't just lose out on that value and just let him walk. It would have made no sense. So I really wanted to move him before the trade deadline. I didn't love the contract, but they had to give it to him. Like, I think their hands were tied. So I think the mistake happened at that end. And now, how do you make up for it? It's tough. You got three centers. You got, guys who we want to see play small ball five. Potentially, you have like four good options at center. And you have 48 minutes that you're trying to allocate. I do not know how you make this logjam go away. This is a much bigger logjam to me than the point guard logjam that people have talked about in the past, or the just general guard logjam. I think what they will likely do is end up exploring trades for Hartenstein when he's available to be traded. Do I think that's the best option? No, I would love to see Mitch be the one to get moved. In the perfect world, to me, we would move Mitch, get some kind of value back, a first round pick, even if it's late. Do I think they're going to be able to do that? Do I think they will do that? Both answers are no.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is going to get clarified anytime soon. I want Jericho Sims to get more minutes. This is looking like one of the best draft picks, in the second round that in Knicks history potentially. And just a steal at his contract value. I forgot what it was. I think it's 3 years, $6 million, which is absolutely insane. So yeah, I think this is a bigger issue than the guard logjam, and I don't see it getting clarified anytime soon.
Yeah, something that got brought up on the post game, and honestly has been a conversation point since the summer of Donovan Mitchell, is that when you're looking for things this front office has done right, you go to Jalen Brunson, and they've drafted well. And the unfortunate part about them drafting well is there's also a paradox involved that they don't really create opportunities for those well done draft picks to see extended roles and higher minutes, which goes to the roster consolidation that we've been hoping that they've been doing, that they would do for a long time now. Sean, I want your take on this. Where do you stand on the center position right now for the Knicks?
I'm with XJ. I think the front office flopped by not letting it get to free agency, because once you let it get to free agency, you can't lose the asset. They should have extended him last year at probably a lower number, or traded him. Again, but this has just been a theme of the front office, that they've been risk averse, and I don't want to say wait to the last minute, but they will. Yeah, no, they wait to the last minute. They're like, all right, they kick the can down the road. That's the best way to say it. And now we're here. And now we have three centers. We have three centers. One of them who will actually shoot outside of 10 feet. In today's modern NBA, which doesn't really make any sense. So to your point, yes, the front office has done a lot of things well, but it's the things that it's the moves that haven't worked out. They're just head scratching. It's like, it's one thing if you make a move and it just doesn't work out because you didn't see it coming, whatever. Like, you draft a guy, it doesn't turn out to be whatever. But it's like we knew who Mitchell Robinson was.
Yeah,
we knew he was going to be a free agent. We knew these things, and we are here. And now we have, and now arguably our highest paid center may be our worst.
Yikes. That's such a horrible,
for the record,
thing to think about.
I still think Mitchell Robinson is better than Jericho Sims, but the fact that we're even having this conversation is an indictment on Mitchell Robinson.
Right. It's less about how good or whatever value Mitch can bring. It's that the team has looked the best with Jericho Sims at center, or in moments when it calls for it, going with Obi at the 5 or going small ball in the right situations. It's why, so Benji and I were texting, and it's like he was wondering why the Knicks didn't go small at any point during the game on Friday night. And I had the thought, yeah, why didn't you go small? Friggin' three centers also on the roster, and as you said, 48 minutes. This is the juggling that you have to do amongst all of it. Would I have liked them to try it? Yes. I was more just happy he went with the three centers that we saw, because I don't necessarily think Mitch is bad. I don't think necessarily Hartenstein is bad. You're trying to figure out lineups that work right now, and against every team, it seems like a different one works, and it's why the consolidation is something that's going to need to happen in the next month or so from this front office.
I just wanted to add real quick, because I had the same exact thought, and I tweeted it out during the game, that when we were watching the Quickly, McBride, and Grimes kind of trio going on, I would have loved to see Obi at the 5. They had Watford at the 5 in Portland, which they were looking hyper small. I think Grant was the 4 and Watford was the 5. There's no reason why Obi Toppin couldn't play the 5 in that situation, and see it with, maybe with RJ at the 4 potentially. Besides that, this logjam exists, and that you have to give these guys minutes, and you should not be hamstrung by your own roster. You should be able to maximize your wins without being hamstrung by your own roster. And the other thing I want to say really quickly, the front office is drafted excellently. It's the thing that they've proven to be the best at. You don't get any benefits from drafting well besides getting the value from those guys during the course of their rookie deal. Because once those guys show to be good, they're going to get good contracts, and then it doesn't matter where they got drafted. You hit on Quickly at 25, and that's great. The value you get from Quickly is having a 25th pick be a substantive role, having a substantive role on your team and contributing to winning during his rookie contract. Because once he gets that contract, it doesn't matter where he got drafted. So you can't draft well and then not capitalize on it when these guys are actually playing on the court. So
I agree. Next thing to talk about, avoiding the big thing. Well, we should say that there was an like a release earlier today from the team when they announced that Jalen Brunson was a game time decision. And for those just joining us, Jalen Brunson will be available for the Knicks tonight. I'm very ready to see what the starting lineup looks like. I'm just very curious to see if what available means. And it's not Jalen Brunson will start. I just want to see that he's in the starting lineup and will be okay. Derrick Rose and Cam Reddish will be available today as well. And that, I mean, we shortened the rotation to 9, but it's really been 10 because Tibbs has been playing all 3 of his centers over the past week or so. Now Derrick Rose is back. I imagine he slots right in for Deuce McBride, who, despite looking very productive defensively, I would imagine still needs some work on the offensive end. And then you go to what Cam does. I don't think Grimes is leaving this rotation. It's malpractice if he's leaving this rotation. I guess the Cam slots in as a backup. I think in a perfect world, quickly he's just the backup point guard now, and you just play with a bunch of wings on this roster. I just don't know if this team is going to do that. Sean, I'll put you in charge. What are you doing with this potential 9-man rotation at this point?
As much as I would put Tom Thibodeau on a pontoon boat and send him out to sea, I do not envy the job that he has to do dealing with this roster and dealing with while I do think there are certain things that, like, for example, I think the way that we have mismanaged Isaiah Hartenstein is criminal. But just put your but shouldn't Tibbs know who his 9 best guys are by now, or his 10 best? You should know who they are. And I think, well, I'll say this: there's one move that should be made, but if that move were to be made, that would cause hellfire and brimstone to rain down upon high. So am I answering this question based on, I guess everyone is available, right? Everyone.
Yeah.
Is available.
Right.
Okay.
So right now, there's nobody on the injury report that's going to miss today.
Okay. So Deuce, thank you. You can go. You can have a seat again.
Yeah.
And listen, Brunson will.
See, we're getting on Tibbs for does he know his 9 best guys, and yet we're struggling.
I know his 9 best guys. I think I know his 9 best guys. It's just how you deploy them, and that's where it comes down to. It's like, are you going to play lineups and combinations that will get the best out of the players that you have? So I actually think like the rotation is actually set. Like, the rotation is now we have 11.
See what I'm saying? We're at 11.
One of the centers has to sit.
One of the centers has to sit. Which one? Like, that's where the confusing thing comes in. Like, if you're trying to, because I don't think Hartenstein's been bad enough that he should be benched. Derrick Rose, that's the conversation.
Actually,
can
that's
be had.
The guy. Honestly, he's the guy.
Yeah, again, in a perfect world, Derrick Rose takes a seat next to Fournier. He's the new Taj, as I've been saying for a few weeks, and you deploy him in case of emergency. Today actually would have been the day if Jalen Brunson was out. All right, either Quickly or Rose, you're starting. We know Derrick Rose probably would have started. And then, Quickly, you're the backup point guard. Actually, before I get your take on this, because I'm just as confused as you are, Sean, with what the correct allotment of minutes, the correct rotation needs to be at this point. Do you subscribe to the Pythagorean predictor of expected wins and losses? Is that I know you're bigger into these advanced predictor stats. So do you subscribe to that?
I'm not familiar with it, actually. You
really?
hit me with something I'm not aware of.
So
tell me more
it takes your wins, your point differential, and it takes all of the factors into account of like how good you are. It doesn't just look at it looks at certain amount of stats and it predicts what your record should be.
Right. It's very big in the NFL.
Yes. Yeah. So the Knicks are by Pythagorean wins and losses should be 8-11, and they're 9-10, which based off of the roster that they have, I think this front office built the perfect team to go 40-2 to 42 wins, and they're on pace for 40 to 42 wins. With that being said, like with Cam and Rose back, what do we do with this rotation?
So just to answer that question, so I wasn't familiar with the specific Pythagorean theorem, but I definitely subscribe to stats, underlying stats that actually describe more so what the team, like the dynamic of the team and what their expected wins and losses should be, more than I do the actual record. Like the actual record, I don't think is really that important.
Can I follow up just real quick?
Yeah.
Last year, their Pythagorean wins and losses was 42 and 40, which is why if you wanted to say like Tibbs didn't coach good enough, I was on board. Like I can count the 5 games, like we all can during that 3-17.
Five?
I don't think it's more than Sean. I don't think it's more than 5. I got to be honest. It's like maybe 7, but that 3-17. That's a
lot. It's a lot.
That's why it's
games.
A lot. It's the difference between being in the play-in and not. Which is
Let's
why
not
I agree with people.
That's
like, but that's my point. Everybody's like, there were 20 wins better than last year, which I'm not saying you were saying, Sean. I'm just like, they were probably closer. So we're saying they were a 45 win team over a 37 win team.
Yes.
That's a huge swing.
It's a huge swing. I also think it's wrong. I think it's closer to 42 wins. They were a 42 win team last year.
I think that we had literally 8 games where we blew like 20-point leads.
It was 5. That's why I said
not 20-point leads, double digit leads.
Yeah, but in the NBA today, double digits. That's
no,
4 possessions.
Yes. Five for sure. Okay, but we
could have that conversation. Believe me, it's besides the point. My point is based on Pythagorean, this predictor. They were better by their numbers than their record shows, which is why I was with the Tibbs. Like had a very poor year behind. I'd say behind the wheel. Like whatever. Last year was the season to point to. This season, they're on track to win as many games as they were supposed to. In fact, they're doing better than this theory. This predictor predicts.
Yeah. So something I really want to get my hands on, which is like a premium data piece, which is Second Spectrum's quantified shot quality, which talks about more so like the type of shots that the teams are getting as opposed to, so I don't really care about wins and losses. Obviously, at the end of the day, that is what we care about. But I think if we're trying to evaluate coaching, we really want to understand what kinds of shots is the team getting. Are they getting shots where they're expected to do really well and the players are just not making them? Or are they getting poor shots and they're making them according to their averages, which is going to result in poor outcomes. So I really want to get a sense of that. That data is not publicly available. But anyway, to the other point that you were making, Andrew, like this is an easy question for me, actually.
Really? Easy.
Very easy for me. Yeah. I Rose would not play any minutes on this team for me. Wow. It's
benching Derrick Rose. Wow.
It feels difficult, but I think that's an emotional thing. I would play McBride over Rose if it came down to it. That's absolutely.
You would play Deuce McBride over Derrick Rose.
100%. Yeah. But my vision for the team is very future oriented. Like I need to see what I have in Deuce while he's on his rookie contract. Like Derrick Rose is not going to turn this team into, from a play-in team to a playoff team, from a outside looking in team to a play-in team. Derrick Rose is not going to factor in that much, in my opinion. And so him coming off the books next year, I don't really see any value in having him play if he's not going to elevate us to a peg above what we would be otherwise. So in that case, there's no reason for him to have any minutes on my team.
Okay. And then from the rest of your roster?
So the rest of my roster. So the guys that are playing for me are going to be Brunson Quickly, Barrett, Grimes, Reddish, Toppin, Randle, and then the center Glut. To be honest, this is why my critique for the team is not just Tibbs. It's front office and Tibbs in tandem. It always has been. I've never been just an anti-Tibbs guy. The front office is great. I think they're working in tandem and have not done a great job. The front office gets a pass from me because of how well they've drafted. That's like the main, and that's the hardest part of the game in a lot of ways, is to scout and evaluate talent and pick those guys out of the college rankings. And so, but besides that, this Glut, I need to trade one of these centers. If I can't trade one of these centers, I am going to drastically reduce Hartenstein's minutes because I think that his value will maintain despite a reduction in minutes. I think that other NBA teams will say, this guy can shoot. He hasn't shot well this year. We know he can shoot. That floater is good. He's an excellent passer. He's an excellent offensive rebounder. I don't think his value will take a hit if he gets benched. I think Mitchell Robinson's value will take a hit if he gets benched or loses a lot of minutes. I think that he's barely hanging on to a first-round pick compensation right now because he has a descending contract. I really think Sims, like we talked about, is the best center on the team right now and has been playing the best, so I don't want to bench him. Hartenstein is the guy out. He's going to see his minutes drastically reduced, and that's just because I think he can maintain his value in spite of that, and that's how I would operate moving forward. So it's not a difficult question for me. It's not the answer I want to give. The answer I want to give is to make some trades. But yeah, I think that's what I would do if I was the coach.
So, and this is the problem, because we talked about this a couple weeks ago, XJ. Your philosophy is future oriented, which this team probably should have the same philosophy. It's not. So, like we talked about this with the Alec Burks lineup last year. It worked. It was +6 for the year. Who cares? Let's see what Immanuel Quickley was. That's why the outcries for Immanuel Quickley existed. Obi Toppin, was a plus last year, but was not a productive three-point shooter for a lot of the season. And then he was, because he got minutes, because that's what should have prioritized, seeing what he was. Deuce McBride might actually be a positive, and seeing what he is might develop. In the interim, in the short term, this front office is trying to win every game possible, which is why Tibbs is an extension of the head coach of the front office, and it's why it's unrealistic that Derrick Rose isn't playing. It's unrealistic that, I actually don't know if it's unrealistic that Jericho Sims will leapfrog Isaiah Hartenstein and he plays less minutes, because Tibbs seems to go to Sims for very important minutes at times. Yeah, I'm with Sean on this. I don't envy the decisions that have to go into this. And look, Sean, you mentioned it, the actual conversation that you had with people on Twitter Spaces yesterday, then KFS Study Hall. And I also, actually, I'd be very curious about the second spectrum data too, because there's very few shots I don't like from this team. Like the Randle shot chart is exactly what I wanted it to become before the season. The long twos seem to have disappeared for the most part, and so I'd be very curious to see. Now, this team's last in the NBA in 3-point percentage, so I mean they're taking a ton. They're just not making. They're making literally fewer than anybody in the NBA. So, some of that might be ability, some of that might be teams are leaving them open. I'm at a loss at this point with how you make it so you can also be future oriented. That might be why we're hearing all these different things about who's available in a trade, who's not available in a trade. But to finish the point that Sean was hinting at before, RJ Barrett to the bench and becoming a sixth man could actually be the option, could be the play. And they're just never going to do that either. They're never going to experiment with him in that situation, even though the data's out there. I think it was Colin who tweeted out yesterday the possessional data of Randle and RJ together is horrible. And then you go Randle on, RJ off, positive net rating. Randle off, RJ on, positive net rating. Both of them off, positive net rating. Knicks are better when either they're split up or both off altogether.
I just want to say, who didn't know this coming into this season? Who didn't know that RJ and Randle do not work together?
I think this is the first season. This is the first time that it's clearly not just Randle. Last season, the whole focus was Randle is the problem, need to trade him, and we spent all off season trying to find a taker. Now we're at the point of okay, it's now both of them, either or could be a problem, This is
also not RJ Barrett. Are people under the assumption that this is who RJ is and this is what his career is going to look like?
Not his career, but the numbers are really bad right now.
This just won't maintain. He'll regress to the mean. It's going to happen. He's not going to stay this horrible for the whole season. If I was playing fantasy basketball, which I don't, I would trade for RJ Barrett right now because I could get him for cents on the dollar, and he's absolutely going to regress to the mean. There's no way he's going to be this bad the whole season.
I don't think he's going to be this bad, but the regression to the mean, what does that look like? That's my question. Is he gonna become like
is that Tyler Hero?
right? Like, what does that look like?
Like-
We're saying get up to 30% from three, up to 40% from the field. Like, that's not good either way.
No, I think RJ is probably going to shoot. I don't know what his season long averages are going to look like, and at this point, I don't care about them. But I do think he's going to shoot from some point on 35% from three. Like maybe his season long averages will be 30% or something like that. But I think he's going to shoot 35, 36% from maybe this point on.
Go ahead, Sean.
The problem with that is that he's only shot 35%, over 34% from three once, and that was in a season of empty gyms. And I'm gonna give my man Cedric a shout out here because he says we crush Randle because of what he did in empty gyms, but we ignore. But RJ 40% from three is like, oh well, it's on the rise. I think that I don't think RJ is going to be this bad the entire season, but the fact that he's been this bad is alarming. I personally, as you were saying that out loud, Andrew, I actually wouldn't want to send RJ to the bench because, for the reason being that in some way it excuses Julius's bullshit. It's like, you two don't work together, so we're gonna bench you. Now, I know they're never gonna bench Julius Randle, right? But if you're good, like, but the thing is though, I think most of us said that like, Julius's prime position is a six man. Like on a good team, a six man for all the reasons we stated. So maybe it's not benching. Maybe it's not sending RJ to the bench, but staggering his minutes more with Julius and having him play with more bench lineups. That's probably what should happen first. And if the head coach doesn't do that, then that's why we bring in the pitchforks. Because to your point, like XJ, we know these two dudes don't work. I said this last year. I'm like, you'll never see the best of RJ Barrett as long as he shares the court with Julius Randle. It will never happen. So stagger them instead of just running them out there together because these are my stars and that's what I do. So
right, but again, these are the stars. He's quote unquote stars, which is
stars.
That's offensive to stars everywhere. Okay, like that actually is an argument to like. Yes, it's not working, but like the season doesn't matter. Them figuring it out because they're long term and untradeable. Like that actually is a reason to not necessarily continue to just throw in the same thing and hoping for a different result, but like. It's not even necessarily that you bench RJ. It's like you said, it's redistributing his minutes in a different way. He could still play 32 minutes a game. He could still play the same number of closing minutes as he has been. But Friday night, what I was hoping that they would do was bench RJ Barrett for the final spurt of the game because I thought Quentin Grimes gave them a better chance to win. That wasn't true about Julius Randle. And look, I have nothing for you defensively with Julius Randle. In fact, Julius Randle has nothing for you defensively with Julius Randle. That's been the most frustrating part is he's done everything I asked him to do on offense. Like his effective field goal percentage is the highest that it's been since being a Knick. His true shooting percentage is the highest it's been since being a Knick. He's finishing better than he was last season. His 3-point percentage is like 33%, I think, which is what I expect from Julius Randle. I wish he wasn't shooting as many threes, but like it's the second on the team for that volume. Like Obi and Derrick Rose are better, but they don't take as many threes. And
Julius to be a Randle. 4 in this league, you got to take threes.
Right. Like I get it. Like they're going to leave him open and he's hitting 33% of them. Its offensive rating is the highest of his career at this point. Part of that is like with other players involved. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's responsible for it, but the issue is that his defensive rating is the worst of his career and the worst of his position, which is what makes it difficult to actually find all the positives that he's done to his offensive game. XJ, you look like you want to say something.
I want to say something just because you're talking about Randle, and I mean, Randle's my least favorite player on the team.
I know.
I think everyone knows that. But also, RJ Barrett's defense has been horrible.
Right,
In
I
fact,
agree.
RJ Barrett's defense has been worse than Julius Randle's defense, which is shocking to say. Why can't RJ play defense anymore? What is happening there? Who deserves blame for that? Is it just on him? Is it just that he doesn't care anymore? What is going on? I think that's something that needs to be investigated or thought about, right? Like, you have this brilliant defensive coach. Is he playing too many minutes? There was some reports about him being tired earlier in the season. Maybe his minutes should be scaled back. That kills two birds with one stone. He can go harder in shorter spurts. I don't know what it is, but that needs to be addressed. I love Sean's point about staggering the minutes. I think that's a given. We should be doing that. That should have happened. If it doesn't happen moving forward, I think that's a problem. It's a clear thing that should happen. These guys should have their minutes staggered. RJ could come out after 4 minutes in the first quarter, 5 minutes in the first quarter, and you can stagger from there. But the defensive end, we have two of the worst defensive players in the NBA right now, Julius Randle and RJ Barrett. And that's, I would like to say that's not on Tibbs. I don't think it's on Tibbs. It's not all on Tibbs, but at some level, like, why are these guys so awful playing for such an elite defensive mind?
I mean,
yeah.
I've always said, and I've always been told from when I was in high school, defense starts with effort. That's where it starts. Like, I can draw up the greatest scheme. Defense starts with effort, and defense is hard work because defense is you following. It's reactive. You're following somebody around. You're going where you don't want to go, whatever. And listen, Julius Randle don't want to do that shit. Plain and simple. Never has, except for one season where he gave a shit, but he doesn't. RJ, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a combination of RJ is committed to getting his 20 because what I said this on I think I said this on KFS. If I didn't, I'm just on Spaces too.
I can tell you, believe me. I can tell you.
Okay.
You said it. I listened to it this morning.
About what? Okay, I didn't say it on Studio. I said it the night before. I think the trade rumors screwed RJ up more than we have realized. And I think the fact that he knows, because Donovan Mitchell goes on the internet every week and talks about how he's almost a Knick, he knows and literally said it was RJ and a bunch of draft picks or whatever. He knows if it wasn't for one unprotected first round pick in 2029, he'd be in Utah. He knows this. And I think he has said, all right, I'm going to show these people that I am the star. I am Star J Barrett. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to get buckets. That's how I'm going to show them. And here we are. So I think it's that. I think it's him having to guard the other team's best player, especially quicker, faster guys where he doesn't have lateral movement. Like, he shouldn't be guarding Anthony Simons at any point, period. He shouldn't be on Ja. He shouldn't be on any of these guys. And it's frustrating when you have this, I know, tongue-in-cheek, Mr. Untouchable, Quentin Grimes, who doesn't play, tongue-in-cheek.
I'm over it. Yeah.
But it's like, I think it's that. I think it's concentrating on being this offensive guy. And, the thing is, if you're good offensively, you don't have to be good defensively. So I can take that off. But like I think he's in a worse place mentally, basketball mentally. I'm not talking about his I don't know what's going on in his personal life. Like, basketball mentally, I think he's in a very bad place because he doesn't know where he fits and belongs, and it's manifesting itself.
So I'm gonna, first of all, we have a starting lineup for tonight. So let me read that out. It's as you would expect. Jalen Brunson, Quentin Grimes is still in the rotation, so good. RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. So those are your starting five for tonight. I'm gonna go to a super chat that continues the conversation. This is from Blooded to Panta, one of the patron saints of the Obi Hive. He says, Darvin Ham benched a $44 million a year Hall of Famer, but we can't with 30. So here's my thought. XJ, you just said that RJ's been worse than Randle defensively. So I pin that back to the Obi Hive that I understand wants 30 to be benched, but my point in bringing up how good, in my eyes, Julius has been offensively this year and the necessary changes and improvements that he's made is that you can't justify how bad he's been defensively with how good he's been offensively, but you're at least getting production from him offensively. I cannot make that same argument from RJ Barrett so far this year. So it's more of a conversation why I would turn that back on Blood to Panta, but we can't. Number 9.
Well, the thing is, this is true. What you're saying is absolutely true. Julius has been excellent offensively. That is objectively true by all the data. and what we watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm future oriented. We've
I know,
established
so
that.
I get that. Believe
Who
me,
is
I
it
get
more
that.
important that we see succeed? Julius Randle or RJ Barrett? As a Knicks fan who cares about the franchise, who is it more important that we see succeed? Is it more important that we see Julius play well, or is it more important that we get RJ off? Because to me, it's very clear. We just signed RJ Barrett. He's on a more team friendly deal than Julius Randle is. He's younger, and I just think that it doesn't matter to me if Julius plays well or not. Why do I care about that? Julius is not going to be the face of my franchise moving forward. I don't care if he plays well. Yes, he's playing well offensively. To me, insofar as I care is because it ups his trade value, and maybe we can get some value back for him.
But
that's
that
the
is
only thing I
future
care
oriented. That is future oriented. You have to up his trade value, and the only way he's going to do that is by playing.
No. That's true. And I think that if we get to a point before the trade deadline and Randle is not gone, this is the worst condemnation on the front office to date. That's what I believe. So I'm okay with not benching Randle until the trade deadline. If he's here after the trade deadline, he's got to go to the bench. He's got to get minutes reduced. It doesn't make sense at this point to maintain this dynamic moving forward. It really doesn't. You're hurting RJ Barrett. It doesn't work. Juliet, what I said preseason was not just Randle and Barrett doesn't work, but Randle, Barrett, and Robinson doesn't work. I think we know that. We've seen enough of that. We know that doesn't work. It's not going to ever work. It's sustainably moving forward. And, these are two of these three guys I wanted to be off the team. I think these were like priorities for me, moving Mitchell Robinson before his deal came up and moving Julius Randle at any point ever. And that those things haven't happened. And if Randle is not, I'm fine with whatever you do now. You want to up Randle's value. He's playing really well. He's playing much more efficiently. He's bought in on the offensive end. I don't know why he can't buy in on the defensive end, but he can buy in on the offensive end. Who knows? But he has bought in offensively. AC, you and I talked about this very early on in the pregame shows. Very early on in the season, we talked about his shot chart. We noticed that very early that he's only taken six mid-range shots in the first 7 games of the season. What's going on? His shot chart's completely different than it ever has been his entire career, right? And he's maintained that. I think that's great. Let's keep it up. And then he's got to go.
So this is where we, in a weird way, disagree but agree. Like, I fully am on board with trading Julius Randle. I think this front office should be more future-oriented and prioritize. I mean, they have with benching Fournier, and that's a start. With some of the younger guys can not only be part of the future of this team, but can be part of the present. I think they have a better chance to win with Quentin Grimes playing over Evan Fournier, with Cam Reddish playing over Evan Fournier. The Derrick Rose thing, I'm not there yet with Deuce over Derrick Rose, but I would hear you if this front office had a pivot of like, we just want to focus on development the rest of the year. Who cares?
It's really more quickly over Derrick Rose is what I want. But I'm just saying, if it came down to it, I would choose Deuce over Derrick Rose.
Look, my version of this rotation doesn't feature Derrick Rose or Deuce McBride. It would be Emmanuel Quickley as the backup point guard. And you have all of these wings to throw it in multiple lineup combinations like the rest of the NBA does. The thing about the double standard you were talking about, Sean, and that Cedric, I guess, brought up is that I'm less frustrated by Randle because and it's like these are the two most frustrating players, don't get me wrong, but why RJ has leapfrogged him this year is that I can at least be like, well, his offense is fine. Like his offense is what I want it to be. And in certain, I cannot believe I'm saying this, in certain ways, like he's not hitting every long 2 and shooting 40% from 3 like he was, but he's been more efficient this year than he was during the We Here season. And like him and Brunson have actually seemed to find like a nice back and forth this season where you're clearly the number 1 guy. Randle will defer to you. And then as a Robin, as a plan B, he will feast offensively. And what makes it even more frustrating, as XJ pointed out, the defensive effort. We saw it in Denver. We've seen him play defense before. But my group chat, we have a joke about Randle is that he's a popcorn defender, as in he grabs his popcorn and watches the play out. Like it's so many popcorn plays. It's like, popcorn play. Like that's Julius Randle right now. With RJ, it's getting close to it. It's getting close to the same thing. And yes, I am hoping everybody else plays the drinking game that we came up with tonight on Friday night, that every time RJ has a wide open teammate on the wing as he drives to the rim and doesn't pass it, take a drink. If you don't like alcohol, grab your Red Bull, grab your water, grab whatever it is. We're drinking tonight every time RJ doesn't hit the wide open.
Lots of bathroom breaks if you're drinking
tell
water.
Me about it. Look, that's where I am on this. Like, there is a clear 2-man combo that is featured on this team. I have no clue psychologically. I'm not able to know because we're on YouTube and we don't have access behind the scenes to what's going on with RJ Barrett and why he's like this. So Sean, you might be right. Actually, you might be right that a regression very far to the mean might be coming. And in that case, it's even more of a priority to trade Julius Randle because RJ's back. All I know is right now, this is a problem. And I commend the I know this is swear words, but I commend the head coach for trying to make it work. And by all predictor stats, they're 9-10. And this stretch they have upcoming might completely derail any progress that they've been trying to make work. But we'll see. They have the Memphis Grizzlies upcoming as we start to transition into the Memphis Grizzlies matchup 42 minutes into this pregame show. The Memphis Grizzlies, who come into this game here, I have a graphic for us to follow. The Memphis Grizzlies are 11-8 on the season. They're 4th in the Western Conference, 4-6 on the road. They've lost 2 of their last 3. I believe 3 of those games were without Ja Morant. They're top and bottom 5s on the season. They're a really good offensive rebounding team. 3rd in the NBA in offensive rebound, 3rd in the NBA in offensive rebound percentage, and 2nd in offensive rebounds per game, and then 3rd and 2nd in rebound percentage and rebounds per game. The only thing they're bottom 5 in is free throw percentage. They do not make their free throws that well. They're about middle of the road in just about everything: offense, defense, net rating, assist percentage, 3-pointers. They're a middle team that is really good at very little, but they have a star in Ja Morant, who on the season is averaging 20, almost 29 a game with 6 assists and 7 rebounds. Really good from the field, 47% on 21 attempts. Fine from 3, 39% on 5 attempts. And like not super great from your lead guard from the free throw line, 75%, but I guess you'll take it. As we transition into the Memphis Grizzlies, XJ, what is obviously the Knicks played them on opening night and a lot has happened since then. What are you looking for in this matchup as far as how the Knicks can win? And I guess, do you think the Knicks will win?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is so I look back at the Grizzlies' most recent game. And what was really interesting about that game is, so they scored 132 points against the Pelicans. 130 out of those 132 points came from either threes, points in the paint, or from the free throw line. 130 out of 132 points came from one of those 3. So highly efficient game. I don't think they always play that way. They had 6 players hit 2 or more threes in that game as well. Game 1 of the season is when the Knicks got lit up from 3. And it's after that game is when, we kind of first sounded the alarm, or I first sounded the alarm about Tibbs' defense and how it seemed kind of worse than previous years at giving up open threes. They're still giving up the Knicks are still giving up the most threes per game in the league, but the defense has actually improved a lot. So it's not the same. The last 10, they're only giving up 36 threes per game, relative to earlier in the season was over 40.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How much of that do you think has to do with the changes to the rotation? There's one glaring person no longer in the rotation anymore.
Yeah. So I in my review of just watching the film and looking at the games, I don't think it has a ton to do with the changes to the rotation. I think that they're making subtle changes in the coverages. The guy on the strong side who's guarding the corner 3 is not sagging as deeply into the paint where they can get walled off and can't get out, because that was happening a ton early in the season. So I think there's subtle coverages that are changed. Maybe some with the personnel. Quentin Grimes is playing, a few other things, but I think it's probably a mixture, but probably not just personnel based. I think Tibbs is showing some flexibility with the coverages if you watch really closely. So I'll give him credit there. And I think, with regards to this game, I think Grimes will help slow down Ja a little bit. There's a famous last words, I know, but Ja is 2nd in the NBA in drives per game with 22.2, but he's actually only shooting 46.7% on those drives, which is not super efficient. And I think it's actually not a case undisclosed question whether Ja is the best or most impactful player on this team. I think Bane is extremely underrated and has been excellent this year. He's missed a bunch of games. I think the Knicks could win this game. I think it's going to come down to the 3-point shooting, like so many of the Knicks games have this year. So I think it's going to be like make or miss. Those are kind of the main things I'm looking at. I don't think they're going to be destroyed in this game by Ja. I hope that I'm right. Can't be sure about that because he could go off at any point. He is a true superstar. I do not underrate him. But he does have some off games, and it's going to depend on his 3-point shooting, how much he attacks, how efficient he is, what his passing looks like. There's a lot of things that there's some variation on. So I think it comes down to the threes. Yep.
Gonna triple check. I believe, Des Bane is out for tonight. So.
Yeah, he's been out for a little bit.
Yeah, he's out.
I was gonna say still out for tonight. That's right. Knee sprain on the 15th of November. He's out for 2 to 3 weeks. And then Xavier Tillman, a center, was questionable for today. They haven't announced if he's playing or not. Sean, what about you? What are you looking at for this game?
So it's actually related to like my betting and sweating pick, which I know we'll get to. I'm interested to see how RJ plays tonight because we know game one, he had an interview before that game. He sees himself in the same level as Ja, and he clearly was trying to show it, and he was awful. And after Friday's game, they asked him about the shots, and he said, I'm going to keep taking. I'm not worried they'll fall eventually. So it makes me think like, okay, like, you know, when you're playing like pickup, you're playing on playground, and like your first 3 or 4 shots don't go in, you're like, all right, I'm going to rebound. I'm going to set some picks. I'm going to play some D because I ain't got it today. Like, that's what I would like to see from RJ, but I feel like tonight he's going to, again, against Ja Morant, he's going to come out and try to show everyone why he's that dude, because not only does he think the shots are going eventually, his head coach even says, just keep shooting, keep putting them up. So I want to see what happens if he has another subpar game, because especially if we lose, because listen, the Knicks fan base, I say it's the best fan base in the league because I say we're arguably the smartest fan base in the league because we don't like, yes, people on Twitter maybe say shit, you know, on a, like, you know, flippy floppy, whatever, overreactionary, but the actual fan base knows what's going on. I say last year, like, we didn't start booing Julius Randle until like December. It was like we watched him stink for 2 months. It was like, all right, now this is going left, right?
I'd argue he started booing us first.
Yeah. So I would say that if he doesn't have a good game and we lose and he starts to get the boo birds, that's what I'm looking forward to, because then I bet you this time last year he never thought he'd be in that position. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see how RJ comes out in this game and how he performs.
Well, so am I. And as we transition into our regular segment before every Knicks game, it's time for betting and sweating, presented by the fine folks at WynnBet. Shout out to our friends at WynnBet. Download the WynnBet app or visit www.wynnbet.com to start winning. Sign up today and receive a special offer. You bet $100, win $100. That's WYNNBET.com. Download, bet, win. It's time for betting and sweating. I will just say, Mensa, who is not here today, we had a shift in the lineup before the show. XJ filled in, has done a tremendous job so far today as well. Mensa's bet for today is Ja over in points. It's 28.5. It is very safe to take any opposing players over in points against the Knicks right now. So we'll go Ja Morant, 28.5. He's taking the over. I am sticking with what has worked for a while now, and it's Jalen Brunson player combos. I'm going over points and assists for Jalen Brunson. It's plus 170 and it's 30 plus. I needed overtime for it to happen on Friday, but he is still been a bit of a machine this season. So I'll go over 30 plus points and assists. Actually feels really low for Jalen Brunson. We'll go to XJ. Well, okay, Sean, you've been teasing your betting and sweating pick for a while now. Where are you going with betting and sweating here?
Well, I had an idea for betting and sweating pick. So my betting and sweating pick was going to take RJ's under points today.
Mm-hmm.
And the lovely people at WynnBet refused to put up any player props for the New York Knicks for total points.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been literally refreshing this for the last 10 minutes. So I'm going to find a backup prop. Yeah, I'm going to find. I assume because it was because of the uncertainty of the lineup. The lineup's been out. So I'll throw it to XJ while I find a backup.
Go ahead. XJ.
Yeah, no, I like the way you're thinking, Sean, because I mean, I wish there was a player prop for just shots taken, because I would take RJ's over. I think Sean is on point with his assessment kind of RJ's mentality. I think RJ is trying to prove himself right now, and I think once he gets out of that space, that's when I think he'll regress. To be clear, I don't know if I sound like a huge RJ stan. I'm not a big RJ fan. I don't love RJ or anything like that. I just think he's more important to this team moving forward than Julius Randle.
I think that's also the correct answer. He is more important to this team going forward than Julius Randle. I just think it's important to acknowledge. I think this is where I'm coming from. The last week is the first time that I not necessarily stopped thinking, because I do think both conversations are interesting. But forever, it's been, what would RJ look like without Julius? And this week was the first time I was like, well, what would Julius look like without RJ? You know, that's all I'm trying to say, is that it's totally the first time I've shifted that mentality.
That's totally fair. And I think, well, we're going to see both of them together again tonight. So yes. I don't think the Knicks are going to win largely for that reason. And so I was looking at Grizzlies first half -1. To me, that's -1. I think that's easy money. But I was also thinking about something like Grizzlies -4.5 for the game, which is +135. And I kind of like that. I think it's under alternates, if I'm not mistaken.
Plus the alternate spread plus Grizzlies -4.5.
-4.5, yeah.
That's actually
you have to. Yeah, no, that's the Knicks. That's the Knicks -4.5.
That's not the.
You have to drop it. Show more.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Show more. Go ahead. Continue.
Yeah.
Plus 150 now.
Yes. Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I'll take that. But yeah, I think because Brunson's going to be playing, I was more so thinking about this when I thought Brunson might be out, but I do think it's a possibility he might be a bit limited. So I'm going to rock with that. I don't feel super confident about it. I'd be happy to be wrong, but that's what I'm going to go with.
Okay. Let me get I've taken mine off the board. Still 30. No, it's still there. Okay. Where's Jaws? Oh, okay. I took Jaws off the board. So Mentz is taking over on Jaws. We're waiting on Sean to make his pick.
Okay. I'm going to take, you know what I'm going to do? Because I think RJ is going to put it up today. Based on the props that are available to me, I'm going to take RJ Barrett, 2+ 3-pointers made at -135.
Ooh.
RJ, hit 2 threes for me. Please.
Hold on. I need to pull something.
He's going to shoot enough to make 2.
He's going to shoot enough. Yeah, hold on a second.
He's going to shoot him. He's going to put it up. But that's what I'm going to pick, because I would take his unders. Dear beautiful people at WynnBet, can we have for your player combos, can we have overs and unders? Beautiful people at WynnBet.
The combos probably you won't get. It's more to the friends at WynnBet. Can you have your player props ready when we're trying to do a pregame show? Having said that, I like the thinking. I would take the points over for RJ. So let's go to not the over, I should say. Points in a player combo, because like you said, he's going to throw it up today. So
the problem is I don't like the value.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at it,
-250.
This is going to require him hitting corner shooters, open corner threes.
which we have a drinking game that says he won't. Can RJ get 25 points and rebounds tonight? The can is an interesting question here. Okay, no, you did the best you could, Sean. I agree with you. Hit 2 threes tonight, RJ.
RJ is like a volatile stock right now. Like, I would be just afraid of it at the moment until it stabilizes. So I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. Okay, I'm going to put on the screen RJ Barrett's game log for the season. Let's see how many times he's hit 2 threes. Okay. He's done it. Oh, he's actually done it more than I thought. He's done it 9 times out of 19 times. It's not a bad bet, Sean. Now that I'm looking at it.
Just playing the numbers.
Just playing the numbers. So RJ this season has not hit more than 3 threes in a game. And okay. Now, if you do recently, he did it against OKC and has not. Oh, geez, this stretch. So for the last 7 games, RJ's hit over 2 threes once. So he's due, as XJ said, he is due for regression to some kind of mean that we can be happy about and not paranoid about. That is betting and sweating for today. Thank you to everybody for tuning in for this segment. Download the WynnBet app now or visit www.wynnbet.com to start winning. Sign up today to receive a special offer. Bet $100, win $100. Download Bet Win. Final thoughts, gentlemen, before the Knicks take on the Memphis Grizzlies.
XJ?
Oh yeah, sure.
Sorry.
I think a lot of this game is actually going to depend on how Randle plays. Surprisingly, I do want to say I think that Randle has been better this year offensively than the We Here season, which it's really weird to say.
Yeah, I said that. Look across the board. He's been more efficient, that's for sure.
He's been more efficient. It's just defensively that season he was also solid, and this year he's been horrifying. It's just unbelievable. But anyway, yeah, I think that's an underrated key to the game is going to be how Randle plays. So we'll see how it goes. He's playing against Triple J, and I know he likes to play hard against guys like that. So we'll see how it goes.
Randle and what I think, as I guess we both think is good this year, how good he's been on offense. It's why his defense has been so frustrating, is that I can't talk about how good you've been offensively because you've been so much worse defensively. And also why I've gone to wondering how this team would look if you put better defenders around him that aren't RJ Barrett. Sean, any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are that it is very frustrating to root for 2 teams that have offensive issues, especially when one of those teams has a star. I'm talking about the New York Knicks and my Baltimore Ravens, who, whatever. It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. How do you lose to Jacksonville? I don't know. Actually, I do know, but whatever. In Knicks, related to Knicks, final thoughts. Look, this team, the Knicks are who we thought they were. They are who we thought they were. They are mid. I say it all the time on Twitter. #embrace the mid. Now, how we are mid stinks. If we just played hard and played close games and just lost, it's like, all right, they're out there, they're fighting, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But I think the Friday's game maybe take a step back and say, like, you know what? Listen, this is going to be a roller coaster all season. Like, we cannot be super duper reactive. The last thing I'll say is on study hall on Saturday, the question was asked. The topic of the show was, is there a double standard between Julius and RJ? And my co-host Chris Persiani pointed out, like, yes, there is, and yes, there should be, because we have more invested in the success of RJ Barrett than the success of Julius Randle. And that I do agree. However, there is now this pushback of people when you criticize RJ Barrett. I see people saying, we don't deserve RJ Barrett. Wait till he acts out. What are you talking about? How can you say, yes, there are people like, yo, wait till he acts out. Wait till he goes to Toronto in 3 years and he becomes a star. You're going to see then. Or what's the other thing I say? It's like, or the favorite is when you point out RJ's playing bad. Well, Julius did this. Yes. Both things can be true. Julius can have bad moments and RJ can play bad. We cannot pick and choose who we want to coddle when it's convenient for us. And listen, you know what this is? This is my Father's Day present.
Oh.
This is me and my son at the Knicks Phillies Sixers game
Aw.
in Philly. You see the number? You see the jersey? Whose jersey is that? So
It's the 9 guy.
I support RJ Barrett, but like my man, I'm gonna give a shout out to my man Jay Nicky. He said that there is support. There's a difference between there's hating, there's supporting, and there's enabling. If you just bash RJ all the time, you're a hater. If you're just coddling him all the time and say he'll be fine, you are a coddler. You're an enabler. You're a supporter. It's you can do better, and I know you can do better. That's where I am, and that's where everyone else should be. RJ, you need to do better, but I believe that you can do better. So please show us you can do better because we know you can do it. There are certain guys that aren't able to do it. You are able to do it.
Definitely able to be better than this. Dirty Dancer beat me to the joke. Do you want to borrow John's paper plate for that RJ that memorial with that memento with you
cover the
you and your
9?
son? Yeah, the paper plate can cover the jersey, and then it's just you and your son in a nice photo.
I one framed AC's face when Sean said about RJ asking out.
I'll never be surprised by the internet because every take exists is like my philosophy with the internet after creating content for the last few years. And yet somehow I still get surprised sometimes that there are some people with the audacity. Yes, RJ is going to ask out at his worst possible moment right now. At his lowest value. You know what? He could ask out all he wants. You know what the rest of the league is going to be like? Just okay. And you want out. We don't want you out. You don't want you in. Okay. The Knicks are currently plus 1.5 at home. They're home underdogs against the Memphis Grizzlies. It is close though. Des Bane is out. The Knicks, I think they have a chance to win. I think this is a chance to be close. We'll see if a banged up Jalen Brunson, how much that matters, and maybe some regression to the mean, as we've discussed today, can happen for our young 9 god as the Knicks take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Thank you for everybody for tuning in to the KFS pregame show. We do this an hour before tip-off of every game. My thanks to XJ and Sean for joining me. As always, their handles to twitter.com where all the takes exist. Their handles are in their name tag, which is under their face, as is mine. You can follow me on Twitter, but if you want to do me an even bigger favor, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like and tell your friends about Knicks Film School. Hopefully the Knicks get you guys a W. I would love it they gave me a W, but my football team already did because they did make the necessary changes, like bringing the god Mike White as its starting quarterback. I'm ready to run through a wall for that man. So we'll see how the rest of the game goes. Enjoy the game, everybody. Knicks Nation. Let's ride.